we had a heart to heart about our channel and the podcast and I don't know, being former really popular people on YouTube that now has much more of just like sort of a community following.
Yeah, after
dedicated
years of being on, it's like, okay, you know, some people are going to fall to the wayside, but the people who really supported us for a long time, they're still here, and they are our supporters and our friends.
Yeah,
that's kind of what we were trying to say.
That was the idea, and we were talking about like, you know, where we wanted the podcast and the channel to go in the future, kind of given the current state of things and how YouTube operates now.
We've kind of made the comedic sketches and stuff about the subjects that we wanted to make, given how we grew up and things we noticed. And now it's like, well, now we kind of want to talk about like just what's going on and like the culture and stuff, so that people out there who are like us are like, oh, I can relate to their takes on stuff.
Yeah.
You don't feel so alone.
Right. And, you know, we can still kind of talk about the same stuff that we did in those sketches, but now we're just doing more of a podcast form more than anything else. So anyways, it's always a little bit nerve-wracking to make a video like that, because kind of the fear, I'll be honest, the fear for me, I don't know if it's this way for you, but it's that people are going to say, yes, finally, they're talking about how things are. Let me help you fix your channel now, because I've noticed things are weird too. So here's what you need to do to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's always a bummer reading that stuff, because it's like, I know you're kind of right, but I don't want to do those things. Like, that doesn't sound fun to me. And so it becomes like this pressure of like, now it's not just in the back of my head. Now I'm being told, hey, here are the things you need to do to fix your channel, but I don't want to do those things. So does that make me lazy, or does that just make me old?
Well, and a lot of things that people were saying as like if there was a criticism, a helpful criticism, it was like, well, right, but we said that maybe in you're talking about something that maybe happened in the first 5 minutes of the video that we then clarified later of like what we, and it was like, well, so, you know, if you watch the entire thing in context, it's not like we're sitting here making excuses about like, well, this happened and this is why.
I saw you replied to a comment.
Yeah, I said, well, if you watch the whole, like, I understood what he was saying, like, oh, it sounds like you're making excuses.
Yeah,
and it's like,
well, just so people know, the comment said something to the effect of, this seems like you're kind of making excuses for not wanting to do the things it takes to stay relevant or popular on YouTube.
Which is true.
Yeah.
Except we're not making excuses for it. We're just saying like, well, this is just how it is now on YouTube, and we're not really willing to kind of go down what you have to do now on YouTube to try and get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views on like more comedy-based stuff.
Right.
And we're kind of overdoing that in a way. Not necessarily, but it's like things have changed, and if you're willing to do those things and go down that route, and
it's like we've gotten older, we've been doing this a long time, and the things you have to do to stay relevant and popular on YouTube all feel like, to some degree, things that degrade society to some degree.
And it didn't, yes, exactly. And it didn't feel like it was that when we started our channel. It felt like, oh, this is I don't even know how to describe it, but it having created videos for this long, there is a difference. It's like post-COVID, after COVID. Like there's a shift that happened, and you don't know where exactly it happened, but there's some shift that happened, and now
it's just that everything needs to be short and quick, and you know, you've got a few seconds to pull people in, and I, you know, I get that, like, and obviously, like, sometimes when I edit the podcast, I'll put a little like quick clip of like what the show is going to be. Like, I'm doing that because I'm trying to pull people in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I'm trying to pull you into an hour-long show. I'm not trying to pull you in to a 15-second clip that you're going to forget in 10 seconds.
Right, know? That you're just sitting there with your baby who's feeding, and you're just scrolling through 100 different videos, and it's like, what are you even doing with your life? Like,
I'm just killing my attention span over and over.
And it really used to not feel that way.
Right.
It used to feel you would come, you would have an experience, and then you would go live your life. Now it's like, this is the experience. This is all I'm doing.
Right.
And it really has shifted. And that's, so I agree with the person that we we don't really want to do what it takes to have a channel that gets 1 million views every video. But
like if we look into that, great. But
yeah, like that'd be awesome. But
nope. A lot of the things that you're told to do to make that happen.
If you research and stuff, it's like, okay, this is unnatural. That's what it feels. And it literally could be. I told Sarah, I was like, and that honestly is because we're older. Part of that is because we were kids and we were like used to Instagram and all this stuff, it'd be like, oh, so we just integrate this with this, and then we can get people to, like this would not even be a thought.
Right.
But maybe it should be a thought if we grew up with all of this other technology. It's like, well, maybe you're so blinded to it because it's so normal to you, but like maybe if you really think about it, it's like, is this even like what we should be doing?
Right.
Or,
yeah.
I don't know. It's
like talking to a grandparent or something about like, it's like, man, you really don't know how to use a computer? Like, couldn't you just sit down for a day or two and learn it? Well, no, because your entire life, you know that you can operate without computers.
Yeah, so why would you? It does in your mind. You don't feel that desperate need to.
Yeah, it's
that urge to like.
We've always had computers, so it's like I didn't have to learn how to use a computer. Mm-hmm. It's just a part of my life. That's a very good. That's a good point.
But I do agree with some sentiments out there. It's like, well, I do think that we could do stuff to help optimize more what we're doing. That's not even like in our minds would be. Not a negative morally. It's just like, okay, well, if we sit down and come up with some stuff we could do.
And you posted an Instagram reel.
Yeah, that was.
It was like what 90 seconds long.
Yeah, so it was basically. I cut it down so you could get the gist of the question, and then I cut it down so you get the gist of my answer. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people commented from that. I was curious because I know a lot of people on Instagram now, and I was curious if there would be people who were like, "Oh, I completely forgot about you. Like this just randomly popped up," and that's what happened. Yeah. So I'm hoping that it will, bring them to the channel and watch our longer form stuff. And it seemed like it was going to. So
yeah. So there you go. Hopefully that makes sense to people. I don't know. It is hard talking about this stuff, and yeah. The reason it gave me hope is that there were a lot of comments that were really cool about it, and most people, even if they had criticism, like they were cool about it. Yeah. I was just going to read a couple of them. I used to watch Blimey Cow videos when I was homeschooled. Now that I'm an adult, it's nice to listen to the podcast while doing other tasks. I liked this guy's comment. He said, in quotes, "I feel like if I met these guys, they wouldn't hate me." Because that's what we said last week on the podcast. That was the vibe we were going for with the show. Like, we want people to feel like we wouldn't, like... you watch so many things and you're like, I like this show, but I feel like if these people knew me, they wouldn't.
Yeah, if I met Casey Neistat in real life, he would just like judge me so much for views and things that I have.
So John says, that's exactly the vibe I get from this channel. A lot of people can relate while listening as the world gets more and more crazy. Let's see. I don't actually know what this comment says. I'm just going to read it and we'll respond. YouTube is so big now and the algorithm doesn't really show you things you used to watch. It shows you more of what you are currently into. There are so many YouTube channels I'm subscribed to that I haven't seen notifications for in forever, but I'd still watch them if it was suggested to me. And that, that goes to what we were talking about too. Is like there's just there's so much stuff on YouTube now.
Yeah, and a lot of it, and you can watch one YouTube channel and then you could easily find another YouTube channel that is saying the same thing just in a different way. Whereas before it was like there were a few channels and they all had different avenues and they were all saying different things. It was like, oh, if I want to do this kind of comedy, I'll go here. If I want this kind of thing, I'll go here. And now that's not even like an excuse. Like that's just objective fact that is watered down more.
Yeah.
So sure, there's things that you can do to optimize, but like at the end of the day, like there are more channels doing the same thing.
Right, right. So like, it's just more saturated now.
Yeah, which is fine. I'm glad that a lot of people are able to do this for a living because it's great.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I know. That's the thing, too. When we talk about this stuff, it's like, oh, I miss the good old days where there were fewer people on YouTube. It's like, no, this is great. We've always encouraged people to
make their own content. We really have.
Like I said, I'll take as few views as possible as long as I can still do this for a living. There's no part of me that's like, man, I just want to get millions of views per video or whatever. Like even you, like the joke is that you want to get 10,000 views on something. That's like especially now that, that's just like such a conservative number of things. It's like, but that, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know. The comments were just really, really nice. We are going to make some changes, though. We've talked about that. We haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Maybe. We're still figuring it all out.
We don't want to chase, as much as this is our job, there is a way to do YouTube without chasing views and building a community. And somebody was like, that's the perfect explanation for modern church. You don't care about reaching a mass audience. You just want to build a small community, and then it slowly dies. That's kind of like what they were trying to say.
Oh, okay.
And it was like, yeah, but there is something about having a local church that
to me, that's what church should be. Yeah. Church, I mean, truthfully, to me, churches should be house churches. Like, you shouldn't go to some building.
I am turning more into that. That seems like at the end of the day, you've got your neighbors, like in a perfect world.
Right.
You've got your 10 houses around you. You all meet up. And you taking care of each other.
And you get together for like a block party or like potlucks or whatever. That's an ideal world. It's not the ideal world. Is not having a mega church where 3,000 people are coming from
in.
like 5 cities.
We saw where that ended. That happened. In the 90s. And where these huge, huge, and I think people long for that because like, oh man, that's like when DC Talk came out. That's when like the Christian industry was like good, but it's like, yeah, but look where it ended us up.
Right.
Like we had these youth groups. Now everyone is deconstructing their life because it was all about all this stuff.
Right.
That now politicians have construed in different ways to kind of like make the masses be.
You should have been talking about how math proves God.
Talk about something real.
Yeah.
And now. Anyway, so
they were so interested in like getting as many people in a church as possible.
Make the message as big as possible so that you can convert more people. But it's like, but then everybody just falls away and nothing happens.
Right.
This has happened many times in the United States.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that. I feel like that's like the ideal is to have like a small community of people that you're not pandering to this massive audience that you're like, we're going to do what we believe is right. And then if success comes, great. If it doesn't come, great. But but we're also going to do the best that we can.
Try to optimize things as best you can without sacrificing your
morals. And we don't want people to be on the computer and their phones so much.
Right.
So we feel very torn.
That is tough because that is a lot of what our channel is about is like,
Exactly.
But I do like doing the podcast because in theory you could just like listen to it.
While you're driving, while you're doing laundry, which will actually get into my recommended.
In your AirPods while you're walking through Walmart.
While you're walking through Home Depot, 35, you're doing it.
Not listening, not paying attention to anybody, just in your own little zone.
I hope that explained that a little bit more.
Who knows? I hope so too. I always worry about it explaining ourselves. I always feel like I don't do a good job, and then you did a good job though.
So
you saved it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, great.